Let me see if I can reposition this
Oh,
computer.
sorry, I already started it. Sorry, my man.
Yeah, you're okay.
Welcome to Scorch the Fears, episode 10. We got my man, Vincent Hayes here. He is an excellent agent in the Bay Area. You've done some flips too, right?
I still do them. I am
And
actually
still
working on
doing
one in Oakland
flips
right now.
and still got a flip going right now. So it's amazing. I'm so happy to have you on here. I'm also going to start it on Instagram. Hold on a second. Should have
Okay.
started on Instagram first, but let's do it. So, yeah, I'm starting it on Instagram. All right, cool, man. Well, it's been a while. I'm glad we get to do this. I'm thankful you got to come on the podcast.
Yeah,
Um,
it's happy to be
so
here.
so let's start with just the most basic of questions. How'd you get started in real estate?
So I have always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and so I've kind of looked at a couple of different endeavors, and one of the things that probably excited me the most was real estate, and I think timing was probably the most interesting piece of all this because I just finished business school, just started connecting with friends that were doing real estate investment, and next thing you know, I'm in it and running. So it's been a very fun and interesting ride, and
You
I'm
started
continuing.
as an agent, though, right?
No, no,
You started as
I
an
didn't
investor?
started as an investor.
Oh, okay.
I didn't become an agent until probably 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. I
Okay, so
started my first
did you
flip
start
was
with
in 13.
flips in
Yeah,
2002? Is that what you said?
2013.
2013.
Yeah, so that was my first one. I've been lucky enough to do everything in Oakland, and it's been pretty interesting and pretty fun.
Nice.
So I'm excited about it.
Love it. Okay, I didn't even know that. So you did your first flip in 2013, and then like, what does your business look like? Has it been mainly just you? Do you have some employees or?
So it's always kind of ebbed and flowed. So I started out kind of recruiting a crew of guys that did most of the work for me on pretty much all of my flips, and then I got this brave idea after probably my fourth one to do a 5 unit condo development. And so that
Mhm.
required a pretty heavy lift in terms of taking an old building and demoing probably 95% of it, and then basically making five new condos, almost new construction. So
Yeah.
it's been an interesting ride.
Okay. Cool. Coolio. And then, so how many do you usually do a year? Or how much do you like doing a year?
Probably two a year.
Two a year.
That's probably about my average. I the condo development took 4 years to do. There was so much planning and everything involved with that. So from 16 until 19, I was like it was chaotic. But for the traditional flips that I would do on single family homes, usually anywhere between 90 to 120 days was usually my timeline. I would take a little break in between and then just keep rolling.
Okay, love it. So, all right, I just wanted to get a little bit of background for people who didn't know you like that. You're a flipper, and just one or two is good. I mean, honestly, one or two in the Bay Area, you can just off of one or two, you could literally like have an amazing life, like
That's true. That's very true. You know,
over the whole year.
if you find the right ones and you time the market right, yeah. I mean, one or two a year can really do wonders for you.
I love it. And then, so why did you become an agent then?
So for me, I looked at it in terms of like how much more can I cut costs, and
Right.
so I looked at acquisition, and I was like, yo, not only can I buy the property myself, but I get what I call a rebate
Hmm.
for buying my own investment opportunity. And then on the opposite side, when I'm selling, I look at it as a way to be able to further incentivize the buying side agent. Like I usually give like 3% commission, and then knowing that I'm going to get the rest. So it seemed like a no brainer.
Love it. I love it. Okay, awesome. So it was just meant more for like the flipping business. That's pretty
Yeah, that's
cool.
it. That was pretty much it. And I help out people whenever I can in terms of other investors. I'm not really a traditional like buyer, seller, agent. Like I don't have a book of clients and do all of that. It's just more for me and then whoever I know in my network that needs a little assistance in acquiring a property.
I love it. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I really like one of the things that I really like about you, Vincent, is, and I know why, is because you started as an investor, so you got it. Wow, a lot of agents sometimes they like are a little bit wary of people who are wholesaling, like me. I mean, for people watching, like Vincent and I did a whole YouTube video on his channel about like how to wholesale in California, because that's a question that he gets a lot. One of
Yeah.
my questions you basically already answered, and I mean, I'm gonna ask it anyways, just because, but I think I know the answer now. Is like, what made you? Because we've done deals and you've been representing me, and then you knew I would be the one wholesaling it. What kind of made you feel comfortable doing that versus just wanting a normal fix and flipper?
So it's your process. I think you are probably, and I've talked to a few different wholesalers, and I think the biggest thing that made me feel comfortable about you is that you have a well-defined process in terms of how you look at not only securing a deal, but then how you approach getting that deal in front of a buyer that is going to be able to close it out for you. And many times, and this is like the biggest struggle that I think many agents have with wholesalers is that the whole run to get an offer accepted, and then at that point you have no idea what to do next. And
Right,
a lot of times, what you run into is someone that has no idea what the next step would be, or haven't like they haven't put together a real plan in terms of how to get in and out of the deal. And so
right.
when I had my first interaction with you, I was like, aha, this is a guy. This is a real
Love
guy.
it.
And so like I'm very cautious about wholesalers that don't walk in kind of with the understanding that they need to be able to execute. So
Right,
it's really tough and I hate to say this because I also do mentorship for wholesalers, but it's really tough to say, hey, I'll be comfortable representing you when you know that somebody doesn't have it all together or have it all locked in.
right.
So,
And I get that too. I mean, it's all about being professional, right? And like being like, look, here's like here's my process. Like, this is what we're going to do. Here's why I think it's a good deal and why I think specifically for wholesaling would make sense. Like, for instance, we've got that deal. We can talk about it more after the podcast. We got that deal where a bank is having real trouble um, getting rid of a property because it has squatters. And
mhm.
that's what I feel like the most value a wholesaler can provide to agents is when there's a problem that's really hard to solve because I either do know how to solve it or know somebody who knows how to solve it, or will just take it, depending on the price. So that's,
Mhm.
I feel like, how we add the most value to you. And I like how that makes sense where it's like, okay, he's got his process. He obviously knows what he's doing just based on the way he's talking and like
Yeah.
understands like this is what it's supposed to be. So that's good for everyone to know. Like if you are wholesaling to like start by having the process down and then and make sure you have your numbers right. You should hit somebody up who's doing deals in your market and then having them give you a buy number. I feel like that's always the right way to start. Is
Oh
somebody
yeah.
who's actually doing deals, knows what's going on. Don't do what like Vincent was talking about, where it's I'm just going to get a contract and then pray for the best and try to make 100K when I have no idea how much this thing is worth.
Oh
Right?
my gosh, it's so hilarious because I mean, I think the most interesting thing is because most people like when they interact with me and when I'm wearing my agent hat, they don't
Mhm.
realize that I'm an investor, and so
Right.
the moment they start talking, and then the sense that I get is that they don't really have the real understanding they need to be able to execute. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be
Right.
tough. And so, I typically try to help level set their expectations. But in general, I think most people are so thirsty for their deal, and many times it's going to be their first deal that they
Right.
believe that the formula they have, which is really no formula, is the right
Right.
one. And so it's tough to get someone to understand that, hey, in all of this, like what I think is most important, and you even said this during the interview that we did on my YouTube channel, is that you have to be someone that is a problem solver in real estate. It's
Right.
not so much about you and your profit and what you can get out of the deal. It's about, hey, here's a seller. Maybe they do or don't have a problem. Hey, here's a buyer. They are looking for an opportunity. How do you connect the two? And then in the middle of that, is where your profit lies. And as long as you know how to
Exactly.
navigate that piece, I think like that's what makes you real as a wholesaler, or it makes you a real specialist in real estate.
Yeah, 100% agree. And like that is why I started, because I think everything, and we also talked about this in your interview, is like how everything starts with mindset, right? That's like the base, that's like a
Oh yeah.
foundation of a house. That's where
Mm-hmm.
it all starts. It's why I started this podcast, was really to start getting through the fears that people have and like the mindset barriers that are keeping them back from achieving what they want to achieve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you were starting, like when you were just starting out, or maybe when you were newer, it doesn't necessarily be, or it has to be exactly when you're starting out. What were some fears that you were having, or what do you think were some fears that might have been holding you back right when you were just starting?
I think failure is a big one.
Hmm.
Losing money, another. And the biggest thing I think for me, my why for why I do this is my family. And so, like, if I'm not able to execute and deliver, and then that ends up having a positive effect on my family, then that kind of is a kind of a deflating situation for you. And so that's why, like everything that I do, I have to be very thoughtful. And there are a ton of hiccups and lessons that you'll learn along the way,
Hmm.
no matter what you do in real estate. I think
Right.
you're always going to have something that happens that you didn't expect, but you just have to be able to game plan for what those issues will be and then learn from them so that you don't get in the same situation again.
Yeah, 100%. That is definitely the way you do it. So those fears that you were having, fear of losing money, fear of,
Failure.
failure, all of those. So how do you overcome those? How do you specifically, like, what do you do to push through them?
Due diligence. Like you
Mm,
need to, I feel like the
wish I
way
could
to
write on this.
mitigate a lot of those issues is just knowing that you know the deal inside and out. And I
Love it.
think for me, it took a while. I feel like it took me probably it was my third deal that I feel like I really started to kind of get my full understanding of real estate, and it started to stick because in the beginning, like you have these great ideas. You maybe have watched a fix and flip show on TV, and you think, oh,
HGTV.
that's I can do that. No, you can't. And like you really have to be a student of real estate. You really have to love real estate in order to make this work, because I think for most people, when you walk into it thinking, oh, I'm just going to get a general contractor and I'm just going to throw some money at it and it's all going to work out, that can
Right.
go so wrong. And even with wholesaling, I mean, just thinking that because you see a house that's dilapidated or distressed and it's ripe for you, I mean, you don't fully understand what's going on with the seller. and you also need to fully understand what's going on with the house, because not
Right.
only could it be a situation where the house is not a good fit for anybody, the seller situation could not be a good fit for a wholesale deal. And so, like,
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time and effort on nothing.
Right. No, that's 100% true. I mean, it's something that I definitely do sometimes where, like, if there's a deal, I don't do as much direct to seller anymore, but when I did, there'd be just some times where I'm like, this person just would be better served by a realtor than me.
Oh
I'll
yeah,
take like I'll take like a small referral fee and just throw it to an agent, right? And like I think it's really important to keep the mindset that we're talking about it, like it's not about you.
no,
It's about them. It's
yes,
about the seller. Like you're supposed to be helping the seller. That's where your profit is. That's how you get paid, is by giving that value.
that's
Um,
correct.
so I like that. So due diligence. How okay, so for somebody who's just starting out, let's go with a flipper because you're mainly a flipper. What how do you learn how to do due diligence? Or what is due diligence to you in flipping?
So for me, I think it starts by kind of being involved with the neighborhoods that you think you can possibly invest in. And
Okay.
so for me, like, and I'll give you some concrete examples. For me, I was a huge fan of the Maxwell Park neighborhood in Oakland. And
Okay.
so, like, I would drive through Maxwell Park probably 2, 3 times a day. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really just to get appreciation for, like, what are the houses that sell the most? Which ones sell for above ask? Which ones have multiple bidders? Which ones have probably the easiest remodel options? And it's just really just kind of digging in and knowing, like, which are the right targets to go after. And then
Mm,
from there, it's about, all right, so let's try to put together some understanding around what it's going to take to get to the finish line. So it's like knowing, like, what things cost, and when it comes to material, labor, permitting, all of those things, plans. And so before you jump in, you want to kind of get a gauge or a feel for, like, what's it going to take to be able to be successful on one deal. And when you can wrap your mind around that, then you can start to create a model that's easily repeated and works for you, as long as you kind of stay in your niche,
okay.
a certain type of house or a certain type of flip or certain type of neighborhood. I mean, once you get to the point where you do 2 or 3 deals in that neighborhood on those types of houses, you get a feel for, like, what you can do in other neighborhoods.
Gotcha. So I'm just curious. So what you would do is like what? Hit up a contractor and just look on Zillow, or like what are the steps
No,
that you'd recommend?
it's interesting. I would actually drive by projects that were actually going on, and I would notice things. Like, for me, like, is the job site clean? What are the guys doing? Is everybody kind of moving as a cohesive unit, or do you have a couple guys over here just standing around doing nothing while one guy works his tail off? And so then you start to get a feel for, hey, these guys might be the right guys. And then also it's just referrals. Like, sometimes I would just run into guys that were either at Home Depot, and
Mhm,
they would have their t-shirts on for whatever company they work for, and just ask them, like, hey, do you know a group of guys that can do some things that can be
mhm,
pretty good but cost effective? And so it's really just kind of trial and error, and just hoping that you find the right guys. And not all the guys that you run into that you do business with are going to be the ones that you stick with. And that's one thing that I think many people don't really discuss, is that, like, sometimes things don't go well in terms of personalities, in terms of, like, deliverables, and you end up having to find other people. So it's always great to have, for everything that you need to have done. So for, like, the trades, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, like, have 2 or 3 folks that you can go to, because you never know what their life situations are like. You never know, like, how overburdened they are with work and all those other things. So it's always great to have a few extra people that you can lean on. But
gotcha.
it's just trial and error, just finding those folks.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna bring this back to something that you said earlier because I this is what I do in the interviews is I kind of like pick up on something and kind of think about it in the back of my mind of how I want to ask a question about it. So you were
Okay.
talking about earlier about your why and how it's your family. how did you determine, like, obviously, I feel like that one might be kind of instinctual, especially because you're a dad and you
Mhm.
have a wife, and like
Yeah.
naturally that's just what it means when you're a father. But I'm curious if it was anything more than instinct. Like, how did you know your why? Was there any other way than that, or is there like any other methods you might recommend of somebody who might be starting and then wants to know what their why is? Because I feel like almost everything goes back to that. Because when you're struggling, that's what you have is your why.
Yeah.
So I guess to simplify my question, how does one figure out what their why is?
I think so for me, there has to be a why that's strong enough to keep you motivated when things aren't going well. And so for me, that's always going to be my family. The other one, the why that I never mention is hubris. Like I always feel like I'm the guy that can do whatever and get it done. And
Love
sometimes
it.
it doesn't look pretty, but like I can get it done. And so
That's necessary sometimes.
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like if you look at some of the guys that are really doing like amazing things in real estate, like those guys, when they walk into a room, they command the room. There's that level of
Right.
hubris and self confidence about who they are and what they can do, and their level of understanding that like you can't fake that. And so like you've got to want it, and like I want it, like I want it all the time.
Right. I love that. Okay, cool. And then, so if there was anything that you could say to yourself when you were just starting, well, first off, let's do this. What was your first entrepreneurial like venture? Was it real estate or was it something before that?
Oh no, it's so funny. My wife was mentioning this morning because I'm kind of having. I've been in some turmoil over my latest project, and so like she laughed and she said, "Remember when you were trying to do merchant services and how terribly wrong that went?" And so for anybody that
Right.
doesn't understand, merchant services is where you sell credit card transaction processing to like small businesses. And so like I had this grand idea that I was right out of business school. I was like, yo, I'm going to create a
When
business
was this?
that around merchant services. And that's right about the time that Square came out. And you want to talk about being
What
crushed.
year was this? I'm curious.
This is like 2013. This is or
Okay.
2012, 13. And so
Okay.
Square had hit the scene and just really started killing it because it was so stupid simple. And like I would walk in and I would talk to a small business owner and one, they hate people that sell merchant services, first of all. And two, like when there's something that's so simple that you can put on your phone and you have a little adapter and you're able to swipe and get your money in hours, like
Right.
what I was selling didn't even seem like it was even worth the time even listening to. So you're talking
I
about
love it.
like it's getting crushed, like walking into people's place into someone's place of business, spending 10 minutes and they're like, all right, gotta go, got business to take care of. See you later.
Right.
Like, whew, that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely tough. I mean, that's a lot of rejection. How do you get over rejection?
You know what? It's funny. So like when I do my mentorship sessions with young investors or up and coming investors, I always tell them that a lot of this stuff you have to kind of liken it to dating. So like
Mm,
I look back when I was a young man and I was single, like you were never like I was never able to get every girl that I was attracted to. Like,
nobody can.
yeah,
Nobody can get
exactly.
every
And
single
so
girl.
like the thing for me is like in business, that's going to be the same experience that you're going to have. You might get probably 10%. You might get 5%. But like you really got to be okay with hearing no. No has to be so you have to be so comfortable with that like literally anytime you hear no, you're like, oh, okay, so that just means I need to approach it a different way. And
Right.
so that's kind of the approach that I have now. Is just like, oh, you said no. Does no mean not today? No, maybe later on,
Right.
and you just or no means no, and you just move on. And so, at any rate, like no is not a thing that bothers me anymore.
Right.
So
No,
like
I
if
got
you're
you.
new, like that's the thing. You gotta have thick skin and just be ready for rejection because it's going to come, especially with wholesaling. Like every
Yeah.
offer you submit doesn't get accepted. So that's a no.
Yeah. I mean, flipping too, anything entrepreneurial, anything sales wise, you're just going to get rejected by somebody at some point. And yeah, it's reminding, I feel like what I think about it, it's really just reminding yourself that it's not personal.
No.
It's never personal, just in the same way it's dating. It's not personal. It's just they
Mm.
don't want the product or service or whatever it is.
And it can be
So
timing. It could be a lot of things. And
yeah,
so like you just have to make sure that like when you go through that experience, like just take from it what you can that will help you for the next experience.
right. 100%. So yeah, where I was going with that, then I got sidetracked was when you were just starting in real estate or entrepreneurship, like if you could talk to your younger self, what would you say now that you have all of this experience?
Ooh, and I knew this question was coming. I thought I was kind of prepared for it, but I think
No worries.
um, the biggest thing that I would tell my younger self is probably going to be find somebody else that's doing exactly what you're doing
Hmm.
and shadow them and get them to see if they'll mentor you. Do what
So
you
true.
can to, because I mean, I think the biggest thing that you have to understand with like any industry, but especially real estate, is
Hmm.
you need those 10,000 hours in order to be an expert. And so a lot of time you're not going to get to 10,000 hours if you aren't doing deals. So if you follow
Right.
somebody else that's doing deals and doing them regularly, I mean, you can kind of ride their coattails to get some of the hours you need, some of the understanding you need, some of the coaching you need. Because I mean,
Right.
that's a huge thing is being able to find someone that has some level of success and get them to share with you the ways that they've made it work.
Yeah. So did you not have any mentor when you were
I
starting?
did. I did. So when I started, I had a couple of friends that were in Boston. That I mean, they were doing all kinds of stuff from flips to
Mhm.
rentals, all kinds of things. And so, like when I would go visit them in Boston, I would ride around and kind of get some understanding of why they do it, how they do it, what's working, what's not. And like that was a good base for me. But then I had to come back home and try to kind of regurgitate that in my mind and then try to figure out how I can apply it here in Oakland. Because I feel like the biggest thing about doing deals in California is this is kind of I liken this to like Harvard Business School. Like if you can
Yeah.
make it in California doing deals, you can go anywhere. I mean, it's
Yeah.
easy. And maybe New York may be an outlier, but like if you can make it in California, you make it anywhere.
So
Anywhere.
true. It's so true because like I mean, it's extra hard to do it here, but what's cool about here is once you get it, you get a big fat check.
Oh,
That's the cool part.
ooh,
Because like I talk to people in Ohio or something, and they're like, man, for I mean, you make like 100K off most flips in the Bay Area, and for
yeah,
them, that's like 10 rehabs, which is just
right.
way more work,
Oh yes.
right?
I
So
mean, you got
it's
to do some serious volume to hit numbers that you would do on one deal in California.
right,
Like that can be, I mean, that can be draining, man. I mean, you got to have a serious pipeline. You got to have. I mean, it's I couldn't imagine. I'm sure though that if I had to like if somebody dropped me in the middle of Cincinnati, Ohio, I could make it work.
right.
I know that for sure. But I mean, the amount of work that you have to do is still the same. The cost may be different, but like just to go through that grind to get nowhere near what you get in California would be it would
Super
be a
annoying.
reality. It would be a shock, a huge shock.
Yeah, 100% gotcha there. So, okay, so I want to understand. You had friends in Boston, you said, right?
Mhm.
So the so how was it working? So like you were kind of getting mentored by somebody in Boston. What was it? Did you guys have calls or like what were they teaching you? How did they do it virtually? Like tell me a little bit more about that.
So when I would go there, like one of my good friends, he had deals going all the time. So he would have in Boston, what's really popular are what they call three family houses. So it's like a triplex, but it's stacked. And
Hmm.
so if you can secure one of those, renovate all three units, you have a great opportunity, whether it's a rental or a flip or You can condo all 3 units. I mean, the
Mm,
possibilities are endless. And so, like,
right.
just seeing their process or his process and how he was able to do that, like, it was amazing. And so I would just go there, and it was basically an immersion experience. And so we would go there, and my wife and I, because those were her really good friends, we would go there and probably stay a week. And so every day I would wake up as soon as he's ready to go, I'm in the truck. We're riding around, we're going to Home Depot, we're going and doing all kinds of stuff.
So wait,
And
were you in Boston?
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, you were living in Boston,
So
not
no,
California.
we would go for visits, and so we
Oh,
would go
visits. Okay,
quite
gotcha.
regularly because
Okay, I was trying to
we were, at
understand.
that time we were living. We it was right before we moved to California. We were living in Cincinnati, and so we often found that on the weekends we would just like leave Cincinnati and go somewhere else. And Boston was our primary destination. And so when we would go and stay there, like it was full on. I would. It was so funny. I would tell my guy, I was like, "Teacher, teach me." And so like,
Right.
Mr. Professor, I would give him all kinds of names, and we would laugh about it. But I mean, it was probably the most helpful thing in anything that I've done in terms of real estate, that in terms of just seeing the process, seeing the interactions with your subs and your general contractors, all that. It's what everybody should probably shoot for, even if you're wholesaling. Just because, I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah. I
think
would
that,
not be where I am today without mentors. I got
yeah,
mentors immediately.
I think even for wholesalers, like not only just the mentorship of another from another wholesaler, but actually going and looking at somebody's flip and how that process works. Because what you're ideally trying to do when you're wholesaling is create an opportunity, say, for a flipper. And so if
Right.
you understand the process, if you're able to kind of evaluate a property and give them some kind of understanding of like, hey, if you buy this property from me, this is probably what you're going to need to spend in terms of renovation budget. Like this is what your ARV is going to look like. If you're able to give a buyer those kinds of deal points, and it makes your job easier, and you can only really get that experience by going and watching somebody.
100%. I mean, that's literally like people forget that you're also problem solving for a buyer too, right? Like you're trying to get them more deals and you need to be able to convince them of that. I will argue with a buyer about comps. I will be like, no, look at these comps. I think you're wrong. I will tell I know a few contractors, even if they like have none of them, and I think they're pretty good. I've gotten referrals from them. I'm starting to do a flip, but you probably don't know this. I'm starting to do a flip with some partners just to start seeing the process and like see
Nice.
how that goes, which is cool and it's fun. And then I learn a lot from it, even if I'm maybe not directly managing it. At least I'm watching and taking notes as the process is going on.
Oh yeah.
So I like it. I'm curious though. My question was because you did get a mentor. So
Yes.
maybe I'm going to switch the question a little bit. If you could tell yourself when you were starting something that what would you tell yourself when you were starting that you wish you had done that you didn't do? That's more what I'm trying to get at because you did get a mentor. So think about
Well,
something that's like
the mentorship piece was an accident. Like it just
okay,
I didn't even set out for um, I didn't even set out to get a mentor. I just thought that there was one day when he was getting ready to leave, and he was like, "I'm going to check out my projects." I was like, "Oh, I'll come with you." And so that's
nice.
how that part happened. But if I were going to tell myself something about kind of how to let's see. I think there are two things. One, as long as you do your homework, it's all going to work out. That's one thing.
Mm,
I think the other thing for me, when I think about it, is don't be too aggressive in terms of what you are trying to do with a deal. I think
explain.
for me, a lot of times I would go into a deal and I'd have ultra aggressive timelines, ultra aggressive budgets. I'd never hit one of them. And so I think for me now, if I were going to tell my younger self something, one, it would just be add in some cushion, add in some extra time for the stuff you can't factor in into your
Right.
pro forma, into your due diligence. I mean, you never know if like you're doing a foundation in the rainy season, how that's going to impact you in getting the work done. So I mean, like really just kind of slow down a bit, be able to appreciate the moment, and really don't be so aggressive. I
Right.
think that's the big thing.
I'm gonna take a quick hold on a second. Everybody who's on Instagram, you guys should go to the YouTube channel. You're actually gonna be able to see Vincent instead of just hearing him. It's just look up my name, Jonah Corchin, on the YouTube. You'll get to the channel and you'll see this
Hey,
live.
everybody.
Or just stay on Instagram and see me not looking at you. It's up to you. But I'm just saying that's where you're gonna see a way better version of this. So okay. So how I know you're pretty big on mindset. I remember we've talked about it before, and I think we talked about it when we did our interview.
Yeah.
So with mindset, how do you have any like morning rituals, or how do you try to start off the day so that you're in that mindset?
For a very long time, I would start my day just by doing research, and
Okay.
whatever you do in terms of doing research on the market, do that every morning. Just because you know what's out there, I mean, new deals pop up on the market all the time, and so just always knowing what's going on in neighborhoods that you're interested in. I think that's probably the biggest thing that can help you with your mindset, because it starts the day with, oh, I've just learned something new. Oh, I just found two or three properties that could be deals. And so
So
it
taking
helps.
out of real estate, because I kind of want to also, I want this to
Okay.
be useful for people not necessarily in real estate.
Okay.
You just mean do the thing,
Do
right?
the thing. Y'all constantly put some effort into whatever it is that you are passionate about.
Okay.
Always try to focus on being a better version of yourself every day. I
Right.
mean, I think the big thing for me is like, I think it's Matthew McConaughey that said it, and I think it was on an award show or something like that. That he was looking to try and be better than his self that 5 years from now. Like I'm always trying to be better than what I think I'll be 5 years from now. And
Love it.
so it takes steps to do that. So like you've got to like I've got to be better at speaking. Like I'm a huge introvert, and so like you would never know that today, but like my
Yeah,
wife would
I'd have no
always
idea.
rag on me about how like when we first met, I would never say anything, and so now she
Gotcha.
says I never shut up.
I like it. How'd you change that? Because that's a huge thing, I feel like, especially for a lot of people watching who are introverts. How do you become more extroverted and friendly and willing to talk to other people?
It takes practice. I think the biggest thing is that you have to put yourself in situations where you have no choice other than to interact with people. Like when I
Give an
first got
example.
into business school, like one of the things that I did my very first semester was I would go to every event, and I would have my name tag on, and they give you business cards when you start school. So then I would just hand out business cards and just constantly, whatever I could think of to talk about, however I could engage people, I would just use that as practice. And I tell, like when I do mentorship training with wholesalers, I tell them all the time, go to meetups, go talk to people, go ask questions, because it's just that especially if you just ask questions of people, like it makes them feel good about you being inquisitive about who they are and their experiences, but it actually makes you comfortable with talking to people. And so you
Right.
don't have to do all the talking, but if you just ask a few questions about someone or their experiences and all of that, it kind of gets you out of being so hesitant to communicate with
Hmm.
people. And then also they reciprocate. And so after they talk about themselves, they'll ask you. And so then you just have to be okay with being able to respond and the other thing is learning how to respond in an articulate way, so that
Hmm.
you're not stuttering and all of that, because like you want to hold someone's attention. And
And how'd you get
so
over that? Was it literally just like
practice,
trying and did
practice.
you like practice? Did you always just go to the meetups and practice, or was it ever any like training or anything? I'm just curious.
No, I tried Toastmasters once and I never
Mm,
could make it through. It was too much work. But I felt like if you just go and put yourself in situations with other people and find two, three, four folks in whatever event you're going to, and just try to find ways to communicate and connect with them, you'll get enough practice and it'll come second nature to you.
gotcha. Gotcha. Cool. Any other advice? Because I feel like this is a topic I haven't talked about yet for introverts who are trying to get into business. Because I feel like that's a common like fear for people who are introvert. I'm naturally extroverted, so this wasn't an issue for me. But
Oh yeah.
I know a lot of people who are introverts. A lot of times they think like, "Oh, I can't, I can't sell. I don't want to do that. I'm like, I don't
You
even
got to
really
get out
like
of that
talking to
mindset.
people." Yeah,
If you're in business, you're always selling. Always.
right.
And so, like,
And
if
the
you
best way to do it is just do it. Like just Nike, just do it.
no, you need practice. I think because there comes a time when you have to. If you think about like the elevator pitch that people tell you to have, like your 30-second spiel about who you are and what you do or why you matter. Um,
Right.
Practicing having one of those is a good start, but
Right.
you also really need to just be comfortable with. And I think it's really more about being comfortable with failing, because sometimes you're going to have conversations and they're going to be terrible conversations. You'll
Right.
walk away and say like, "Why did I say that?" And so just don't beat yourself up for it. Just make
Right.
sure that like, hey, I won't do that again. I won't go down that bunny trail. Just make sure that you have a very kind of succinct way of talking about whatever they ask you. And most times it's going to be more about either who you are or what you do. And so if you can just nail down a few talking points about who you are and what you do, you'll be okay.
I love it. Okay. Cool. So, all right. What else do I have for you? So, what is your goal with your business? Like what is the overall goal? Where is it where you're exactly where you want it? Are you already there? Are you just really happy doing one or two flips and then just keep doing that, or are
Heck
you trying
no.
to grow it or
Heck no. No, I'm actually so I'm really intrigued with a lot of things right now. Cryptocurrency and blockchain
Oh,
uh,
okay.
are kind of
So you're trying to spread out into a bunch of different things.
no. So I'm actually trying to marry the two, real estate and blockchain. And so
Ooh,
like I'm
how?
really interested in how we can bring virtual currency to real world assets and make the two work. Like one of the things that's happened today that I'm really intrigued by is there's a startup called Proppy here in the Bay Area, and they had an auction today for the first property that's ever been sold through the purchase of an NFT. And so,
Hmm.
like, that is really intriguing to me because, like, one
How
of the
does
things,
that work? I mean, I think I know how it works because I keep up with this stuff, but for the audience, like, so, and like, I'll just go through the basics. NFT means non-fungible token.
correct?
It's basically like a verified, there's only one of these electronic token. So,
Yes.
how does it work in real estate?
And so basically, what Proppy was able to do is they basically transferred ownership from an individual to an entity, which they then created an NFT, non fungible token, to have ownership of the entity, which then had ownership of the underlying asset, which is the house.
So the NFT was for the LLC or the corporation or whatever it
Yes.
was.
Hmm.
Gotcha.
And so
Interesting.
then with the auction, basically you connect your wallet, you're able to bid. If your bid's the winner, then you take ownership of the NFT, and which means you take ownership of the underlying LLC and asset that the LLC owns. So then you are now the proud owner of a house in Tampa, Florida. And
Yeah.
so all done through cryptocurrency, all done
Interesting.
in a matter of minutes once the auction closes. So like that's intriguing, and I'm like I want to know how we can take real estate investment and then marry that with uh, cryptocurrency or NFTs or blockchain, all of that. I think like one of the things that I've been hammering on, one of my favorite escrow agents is why can't you take crypto, like take somebody's Bitcoin and use that as the currency that is used to transact on real estate property. And so a lot of the issues were around the value of the token or a coin at the time of close of escrow. Like,
Right, 'cause I
is
can
there a
change. That's
difference?
the
Yeah,
issue with Bitcoin is,
yeah,
like, I could get into contract last month, and then it goes down $20,000 or
right.
whatever, and then, like,
Exactly.
I'm gonna sell nothing my house for way less than I thought.
Yeah. And so I think that is the major hurdle. But then the other piece is title companies. I feel like don't want to be caught in the middle of something like that because I think at some point the coin or the currency has to be converted into U.S. dollars, and so like they don't want to be caught holding the bag where somebody's short or anything like that, having to go back
Right,
and get more money. But I think there are real opportunities in order to make this work. And I think that whoever can solve this equation and make it work for all parties involved, title companies, county recorders, buyers, sellers, agents, all of that, I think that's who wins.
so what are you gonna be the guy, or are you trying to how are you trying to take advantage of it?
Still working on it right now. Still working on it. I feel like there's some opportunities there. I think the biggest challenge for us is just the that our government is slow to kind of wrap their minds around how virtual currency can work with real world assets.
Right.
And that for them, the biggest piece of it is how do they get their cut of the pie without
Right, because that's always what they want. The government always wants
of
a cut of it.
course, of course. And so, like, I think once they figure that piece out, I think that'll open the floodgates, and everybody will come running through and figure out different ways to make that those two worlds collide and work. But I think there's still a lot of work to be done on the legislative end of this to make it possible for this to all be easy.
Yeah, I'm curious. This is one I learned from somebody else, the potential merging of the blockchain and real estate is it's very similar to what you were talking about earlier, where they sold the LLC that way.
Mhm.
But I think it has the potential to just run title companies out of business eventually. Because I mean, you could, in theory, just have. I mean, the blockchain. One of the cool things about it is it tracks all the transactions behind it.
Yep.
So you could just be like, okay, well, I can tell, like, I don't know, I'm not a super tech guy, but if I'm assuming there's probably a way to be like, okay, we're now going to attach, so like a mortgage to a part of the blockchain, maybe, I don't know. But like, to me, that seems like a logical way where eventually you could have it where I'm in ownership of this. This is a electronic thing that proves that I'm the owner of this house,
Right.
and then I can sell my house on my phone or something like that, or through like cryptocurrency, and then I have way more control over it. There's obviously some issues, but I feel like that would be a really cool way to do it because then you wouldn't even need title companies or escrow companies,
That's
and then
it. I mean, the biggest issue is just chain of title. And so
Mhm.
like you have to be able to know for a fact that when you give your currency, your money to someone for a piece of property that like it's going to be yours and that there's
Right,
nobody else that has a claim on it. And so
right,
like I think that's where blockchain could solve a lot of issues. And I don't want to say get rid of title companies, but it would get rid of the need for like title reports and all of that stuff because it's all stored on blockchain. And there's no disputing it. So like I think
right.
there could be like a huge opportunity. I think honestly it could make county recorder. It could make a whole lot of entities that are in real estate transactions jobs much simpler. And you know
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of
100%.
value that it could add.
I love that. Yeah, no, I'm excited for that stuff too. That I'm curious how long it will take. Something I've noticed with real estate is it's very not techy. Like I feel like this industry takes a long time to adapt to these things in comparison to other industries. You were shaking your head. Do you not
Oh
agree?
yeah, no, that's the same thing. That's the same thing I've been saying for years. Like the real estate industry is probably it's like a big behemoth. I liken it
Yeah.
to a 747. You can't make
Right.
it do a hairpin turn. Like the
Yeah.
real estate industry is not going to move that fast.
Right.
And so, like, I think it's probably going to take about 5 to 10 years before we get to like some serious adoption rate where the two of those worlds merge. I think,
Mhm.
I guess my hope is that the thing that happened today with property and then how things work with the
Was that
metaverse.
literally today?
Yeah, it was literally today. The
Wow.
auction
Okay.
started this morning and finished like around 2.
Okay.
And I think it sold for, I think they had it listed for a little over 6 and it sold for like 650. I think that
Hmm.
was, I can't remember how many Ethereum coins that was for. But yeah, it like you can go on Twitter right now and you can probably find
It's
where
trending.
it's all you got to do is search on Proppy and you'll find everything you want to know about what happened today.
I love it. That's super interesting.
Oh yeah.
So, okay. So, in your business today, what is your biggest struggle? What's your biggest hurdle for what you want to achieve?
I think for me right now, it's probably capital. I
Okay.
think the struggle that I'm having with right now is because of inflation. Like everything is so much more expensive, and
Right.
so you've got to have way more capital than what you typically would require to do a flip, even to buy a house. I think everything is just so much more expensive. But the beauty is that when you sell it, you're going to get
Make a
the
ton of money.
value, yeah, that you think you should because of where the market is. But it's
Right.
just getting in and getting out. And so capital is a huge deal. But I think right now, I'm in a good place. I think the deal I have right now should be a pretty good one. And so hopefully capital issues will go away very soon.
Love it. I'll put you on to this challenge that I did that I think really is cool. I'll send you the link and I'm gonna put it in this side chat. It's called
Okay.
the 500K challenge. It's by
Mhm.
Bill Allen. I don't know if you ever heard of him. It was really good. I started doing it and it raised some serious private money that I feel like could be pretty solid for you. So I think that you should definitely try it out and check it out. And I'll send you the link directly after this podcast because I think when you've got a deal, in my opinion, finding money can be a lot easier than people think. It's more just the way you phrase it
Oh yeah,
to
yeah.
somebody else is like everything. It's not that I'm asking you for money. I'm giving you an opportunity to
Opportunity.
make
Yes.
a ton of money,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and that's been the thing. Like my first my current deal, I didn't put a dollar in it.
Right.
So like capital is there. I think my biggest issue is I just don't like asking for other people's money. Like
Right.
I'm okay taking money from a lender, but it's very difficult for me to be comfortable with taking money from somebody else, like another investor or friends and family. Even though I have to do it sometimes, I think it's a struggle for me to not be able to get in and out of a deal myself, and so
And what
that's
do
my
you think? What do you think is that? Is it the fear of losing their money?
no, because I'm in many situations, even if the deal goes south, I'm still going to, in some way, try to figure out how I can help you recoup your money.
Right.
And 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 I've had that happen before. And sometimes it's not immediate. Sometimes it takes some time. Like I still have a deal where I owe like one person like $700, and so like I'm gonna make sure that dude gets his $700.
I love
And
it.
so, and sometimes you look at it like $700, just give him $700. But like no, there's a method to the madness, and so like
I
every dollar
like
matters. And
So wait,
so
if it's not the fear of losing their money, what? Because there's a fear there, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. I have fears too, and I can get into them. Like my biggest fear that I recently got over was spending money, because
mhm.
like I really ran a whole business model that was based off referrals and stuff like that. So I really was running a very lean operation. then I kind of realized that like if I'm gonna reach the goals that I have in my head right now in wholesaling and buying more properties to hold and maybe doing a flip or two more. I don't know if I really want to flip. I'm debating it right now. I like wholesaling way more. I mean, I might start doing like a lot more flips than I'm doing right now, but we'll see. But anyways, what was I thinking? So what do you think is there? Because there's something there. There's some
Oh,
fear holding you back
there's
from
definitely something there. For me, it's not like I'm never like I try to do enough due diligence so that I can plan for the rainy days
it.
or the storms that may come. So like for me, it's the biggest issue is not being able to get people their money back on the right timing. And so for
Okay.
me, it's like if I say that I'm going to give it to you on X date, like if I miss that date, then that's the issue that I have. It's
Right.
I didn't meet my obligation on the timing that I set. And so usually and for me, like in most situations, I try to pad it well so that there's plenty of time to be able to
Right.
overpromise and to under whatever the saying is, but deliver
I gotcha.
long ahead of what I told someone I would do. Like my current flip, like this has been such a journey. So I purchased a property back in October
Hmm.
and from a lovely seller, and she just moved out today. And so, and it's not a fault of her own, but like there were challenges in terms of her being able to move to her next place of residence. But it just, and if you think about it, the property was pretty expensive. So $10,000 a month mortgage payments were coming, and I couldn't do any work. It was stressful. And so like
Right.
on this deal, uh, I have investors that have loaned money, and I've promised a return. I actually promised that we'd be done by the time the Super Bowl hit. I told one of
Right.
my investors that like we were going to the Super Bowl when this property is done. And Super Bowl this weekend, and I'm just gonna start demo. So
Right.
like that
Stuff
doesn't feel
happens.
good.
Right. I get that. That's hard. I mean, I understand because things pop up that it's really hard to um get the timeline right. That makes more sense to me for sure.
Yeah, and
Spitballing,
especially
I
if it's
feel like
something that's not in your control. Like, and
right.
that's what this was. And so like I there was nothing I could do other than just wait. I could threaten and all that stuff, but I wasn't going to do anything other than kind of wait my time. Now, if I had to, I would, but like that's not the person that I am. I like to try to
Right.
have some integrity, but at the end of the day, like when you've got other people's money on the line and you got goals for yourself as well, like it just makes it very stressful. And so
I would also say too, I mean, you're still paying them interest, right? Something that I say to people because I got private money for this rental that I own in Georgia. And that's like a 5-year loan. And people like some people have at least asked me, it's like, man, that seems like a long time. Why would somebody want to lend for that long? And to me, it's more like, why would they not? Why, if I'm a lender and I'm trying to make money lending, I want my money out there as long as possible working. If you like, if you give me my money back, then I have to find another opportunity when the whole point is that I'm trying to make money off of my money,
That's exactly
right?
it.
So I feel I don't know, just like some spitball to those people and just be like, hey, I'm gonna still pay you interest on your money, so you're gonna actually make
Trust me,
more money than you're gonna do.
they're getting sweet deals for their contribution. So like for
Right.
me, I always try to make sure that but it goes back to due diligence. So like if I know my deal can afford the types of returns that I'm giving, then I'm okay with it because I know
Cool.
at the end of the day, even if it goes bad, that I'll be able to take care of them with their return because that's most important. Is like you don't ever want to be the guy that like took somebody's money and then all you can do is give it back to them. Like that doesn't feel good to the investor, and nor does it help
Right.
the credibility. And so, as long if I get nothing out of it, at least my investors get some out of it. So, like
Right.
that's my mindset because
I love
I
it.
may have to come back to them one day and say, hey, I know the first deal went bad, but hey, would you give me a
You made
second
money still.
opportunity?
Yeah. Cool. So I usually do this for an hour. My last question usually is like, what's your favorite mindset entrepreneurial book that you'd recommend to people?
Hmm. Um, you know, there are a ton because like one of the I guess maybe what I should have said um, to my younger self earlier when you asked that question was seek out the types of books that help you kind of become comfortable with who you are in your own skin.
Hmm.
And like I do a lot of that in terms of just finding books like let's see here I because I do a lot of Audible stuff, and I've got one that I really love. And let's see here, I can pull it up quickly so that you can. Uh, so I like 48 Laws of Power. I like let's see, Think and
What's
Grow.
your favorite? I want the one that like comes to your mind where you're like, man, that one really. I feel like there's one book for everybody that's like that one really sparks something. Um, like you can say a classic one. Like I mean, everyone, a lot of people say Rich Dad Poor Dad and all of that type of stuff. But
Yeah,
I am
that's a
just
good one for investment. But like I think one that really um, kind of turned on the light and turned on for me, like you can persevere through anything, is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
oh, what was it? Wait, what's the name of the book? I love David Goggins. I haven't read any of his books.
It's Can't Hurt Me, and like he
Can't
talked
hurt me.
about how
He's crazy.
he like went through Navy SEAL training. Was it 3 times?
Yeah.
And like I'm telling you, some of the stuff he went through and had to fail, like I'm not built that way, but
Right.
I can definitely take some inspiration from his
Right.
story and his life. But I think for me, like because there are times when my wife looks at the things that I go through and kind of the struggles that I have, and because I mean, nothing in real estate is perfect, so there are going to be
Right.
problems, even on the best deals. But like she looks at some of the stuff and she's like, I don't understand how you keep moving forward. And I'm just like, because I have to, because I know I can. I
Right.
know that none of this
What the
stuff
hell
is
else am I gonna
good. Right. And there's that. What else am I
do?
gonna do? Sit at home and play PlayStation? Nah.
Right, exactly. I love it. Cool. Well, first off, is there any where can the people reach you? How do they find you? Do you have an Instagram? I know you have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So what how do you want people to follow you, reach you and all that?
So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. For Twitter and Instagram, just look for NVH0701. It's my initials and
And
my
wait,
birthday.
hold on. Let's because some people will be listening to this. It's N, like N is in
N is in
Nancy.
Nancy, V is in Vincent, and H is in Hayes. 0701.
Okay.
And then that's for Instagram and Twitter. And then for YouTube, if you just Google or search on YouTube for Vincent Hayes, I think the actual link is youtube.com/ Vincent Hayes or C/Vincent Hayes, something like that. But
Okay.
if you just Google me and look for my mug, then you'll find me.
Cool. All right. Do you have anything you want to leave the people with? Any last mindset tips? Anything that you feel like could help the people listening in?
Always don't get bogged down by no,
Mhm.
and fail fast.
Nice.
If you have to fail as fast as you can so that you can keep moving.
I love it. I love it. I'm following you right now. That's why I'm like distracted. So NVH, I want to make sure for the people that I can actually find it. Yep, I see you. All right. My man, thank you so much for coming on. I'm gonna end it here, guys. Scorch the fears. We've done 10 episodes, which to me is crazy. Started this like 2.5 months ago. Loving it. Thank you so much, Vincent. I'm
Oh,
gonna
no
see you
worries.
all next week, 5 p.m. PST. Peace.